The most amazing treasure hunt in history is over. According to the History Channel, the actions of the Laganina brothers the Impractical, the oak was located. Treasure from the island, and it's not what nobody anticipated. We're not discussing a plain gold coin box. We're referring to a chamber with multiple levels including artifacts from various continents and centuries. The most startling object, a fragment of technology that isn't necessary for its time frame. What is it? A sword. A sword from Roman times. That is amazing. This item was discovered within the Mound Bay in the 1940s, close to Okawa. This finding doesn't merely address a mystery. It produces a larger, more disturbing one regarding who actually went to the Americas initially. The wait of 2 centuries is ended. It at last took place. Following more than 200 after years of exploration, the Oak Island A treasure has been discovered. The past, it was just confirmed by Channel. Additionally, this isn't concerning a new rusty nail or a piece of wood. They entered the vault. However, what they found is way more than Murray or pirate gold alone, the jewelry that Antoinette lost. The discovery contains an artifact that is so unlikely that threatens to destroy our comprehension. The history of North America. It's a finding that influential groups have purportedly attempted to repress for centuries. Hello everyone. Visit the garden store. Look at that, man. Bubbles. Look at that. Wow. Ho, what a surprise. Look, it's actually bubbling. Excellent. In fact, you'll be shocked by what the Laganina in fact. Brothers left that pit. The discovery moment was insignificant, not quite cinematic, far below the garden shaft in a location that was formerly determined by Dr. Ian. A geochemist Spooner's unachievably high amounts of silver and gold in the water. The enormous drill used by the team shattered through the last artificial barrier. Indeed, air bubbles are present in the garden. Alright, that's on the right side, close to the real location of a rock. Thus, we're applying pressure while they from the drill rig ahead along into the garden shaft through that tunnel. Indeed, instead of stone or wood, it was a dense layer of an odd substance that resembles material containing animal bones and an unidentified metal. It was an item made to withstand time and drills itself. They sent down a remote camera, showed a location that left the whole team stunned. A closed vault-like built space that is around 15 feet by 15 feet comprises enormous pieces of hand-cut granite. Within this room, where the group is known as the Refuge, there were a number of chests. Gold was found in one iron-bound one. Coins from countries other than France and Spain, but, as it turns out, the Roman Empire displaying the faces of the ruling emperors. More than a millennium prior to Columbus, we have come upon what we believe to be possible spaces or offset chambers in the earth. Thus, we're beginning to gather some information for you all. How did the 160-foot deep Roman coins get there? In North America? Just that question might change the course of history. However, that was only the beginning. A second chest contained a grouping of scrolls in an ideal kept in lead cylinders that had been sealed. Early, thorough examination of a single scroll showed a chart of stars, but it wasn't a we know the skies chart. It showed constellations originating from the South Hemisphere viewpoint, depicted using amazing accuracy. Stranger still, it appeared with annotations in a language that linguists have tentatively determined as a blend of Old Hebrew and Phoenician. It's amusing to consider regarding it. Every expert who stated the most likely 90U stone was a fabrication, eating their words at the moment. However, the focal point, the thing that created everyone's mouth drop during the ceremonial sword, rather than a cross on a stone pedestal. What is a sword? A sword from Roman times. That is amazing. This item was discovered within the Mound Bay in the 1940s, close to Ocala. It had gold embedded in its hilt, with uncut gems. However, the blade that was made from a dark metal that doesn't reflect later examinations verified that it was meteoric iron, the same sky metal that ancient people valued societies such as the Egyptians. Sculpted into the handle was the obvious tabarred cross of the Templar Knights. The kicker is this. This finding does not merely imply that the Templars arrived to America. It implies that they brought their holiest artifacts with them. It's no longer detailed, you know. And the important thing, I guess, is how heavy, yes, it is. Seemed to be composed of bronze. Seems to have a good weight. In which year was this produced? In the middle of the 2nd and 3rd century AD. This gladius is ceremonial that the Emperor Kodos presented as a tribute to the sect gladiators. The group also discovered thoughtfully positioned human remains, the skeletons on either side the pedestal as though watching over forever. This was no trove of treasure. It was a message, a sanctuary, and a grave, departed for the future. This discovery makes the sadly 6 lives were lost during the century hunt seems like a scene from an epic saga that has at last arrived at its peak, the enduring myth asserting that a 7th person must die prior to the island disclosing its mysteries suddenly seems uncannily prescient, but fortunately, the last finding was made without more catastrophe. After all, the enigma surrounding what has been interred on Oak Island is resolved. However, a larger one has just started. At last, we understand what was located, but how were they able to achieve it? 200 years of fixation. To comprehend why this finding is so significant bargain, you must value the 2 years of unrelenting, pure obsession that preceded it. This wasn't only an informal treasure hunt. Many people saw it as a work in life that resulted in bankruptcy, heartache, and in certain sad situations, their last moments. The Oaktail Island is a tale of human perseverance in the face of improbable odds. Everything began in 1795, when Daniel McGinnis, a teenager, noticed an odd circular indentation into the ground. You may not be aware of it, but this one observation sparked an enigma that would captivate millions of people. Along with his pals, he began excavating, and they struck a layer of oak just 10 feet below, logs. Next came another at 20 feet and another 30. This wasn't natural, they knew. This was constructed by someone. That hole turned Honor referred to as the fabled money pit. Above over the following centuries, the island became a magnet for entrepreneurs and idealists. Numerous businesses were established. The Truro Company, Inslow Company, and the They All Came, Oak Island Association. They all dug, but none of them succeeded. They were being battered by the island's the flood's cleverest defense tunnels. Again and again, as they believed they were near, a flood of the crater would fill with seawater as it rushed in. Just a few minutes. It was an artificial booby trap of astounding intricacy intended to keep whatever was at the bottom safe. The magnitude of the endeavors is astounding. We are discussing enormous steam-driven pumps, massive cranes, and intricate coffer dams constructed to contain back of the sea. During the 1960s, a gem Robert Dunfield, a hunter, took it using a forceful strategy, bringing in large equipment and crater excavation over 130 feet broad and 100 feet deep. He essentially changed a significant portion of the island, but no treasure was discovered. He just discovered additional proof of shafts with backfill and tunnels, an intricate network created by a genius. We are aware of a tunneling system beneath that could attach to the garden shaft, which is quite thrilling for us since we could possibly dig a tunnel to the wealth. And the human cost comes next. 6 individuals have died in the search, from a male overtaken by pump engine fumes in 1861 to a lost team of father and son in a terrible mishap in 1965. Because of this background, the notorious myth that 7 individuals must fulfill their fate away before the treasure is discovered. It's a gloomy context for the recent triumph and a warning of the actual risks engaged. The hypotheses on what was they were as crazy as the search down there itself. Was that a pirate from Captain Kidd? Bodie? France's missing royal jewels? Original manuscripts by Francis Bacon demonstrating that he penned Shakespeare's plays. I have consistently stated or maintained the belief that Oak Island's offerings are more than just temporal plenty, that exists something else here. Additionally, you is it ancient knowledge. I wonder, is it the folios by Shakespeare? I mean, I don't understand. However, what exactly is bookbinding material? What are you doing down in the money pit? Or the most alluring hypothesis, the Knight's Lost Treasure Templar, possibly including the Ark of the Covenant, or Grail, every one new hint, such as the 90-foot covered stone, or seasons ago. The lead cross was discovered, yet deepened the mystery. Each generation of searchers contributed a chapter to the myth, carrying on the legacy of obsession over time, all of which led to up till the Laganina brothers embraced the cause. However, the traditional methods of dreaming and digging were never sufficient. They required a new approach. The code is ultimately cracked by science, for the hunt was all about sheer force for millennia, force and naive optimism. However, the Laganina of the game was completely altered by brothers. Now it's a completely different situation. They realized you couldn't defeat a 200-year-old riddle solved with only shovels and drive. You had to battle. Engineering with superior engineering and hard science and mystery. Their strategy changed the island from an excavation site into a huge outdoor lab. Take this. Rather than merely they began by haphazardly digging, mapping the whole island. Using sophisticated technology, they made advantage of piercing GPR, seismic scanning, and radar to make a three-dimensional picture of the event. Far below the surface, something startling was discovered by these scans: an extensive system of tunnels in big artificial voids or chambers. One exception where the garden shaft would eventually be located. The space resembled a huge sealed vault. It wasn't a guess. It was a data-identified target. Next came the Dr. Ian Spooner led the water analysis. This individual was a real gamaker. By using samples of water taken from several drill holes over the island and evaluating their chemical makeup, his group discovered something amazing. The water within the concentrations in the money pit area of silver and gold are hundreds of times more expensive, more than usual. I believe we're all quite thrilled about the garden shaft. Why the garden, Craig shaft? What about it appeals to you? There was gold in the water sample. Famously, Spooner appeared on camera and claimed that the findings were unusual and indicated a substantial supply of valuable subsurface dissolution of metals. In other words, the prize was actually revealing its signature in the surroundings. As a result, they were able to zero in on the precise spot with amazing precision. Another crucial element was core drilling, a puzzle component, rather than enormous damaging excavation. The group employed strong drills to extract core samples down more than 150 feet. This is how they discovered the early hints that helped them continuing for a long time. Fragments of ancient wood and non-native coconut fiber, bits of parchment to Nova Scotia, and even pieces of human bone. How do you interpret that? Upon initial examination, it appears to me similar to wood, but incredibly dense. What level of depth was this? Discovered? That was in the range of 160 to 165. It is hard and dense. It doesn't appear to be rock. It's not rock. Oh, according to a geologist, it's not a stone. Is lignumvit a possibility? Extremely dense timber. Extremely dense timber. Every fundamental example was comparable to a page from a historical book. These were carbon dated, things that are regularly returned on dates during the 17th and 18th centuries. Much before officially, the money pit was found. This was concrete evidence that a big on the island, a covert project took place centuries in the past. However, why target the garden shaft first? What did that signify for the first money pit? The group's theory, supported by empirical evidence, was that a decoy was the original pit, intended to divert attention and deplete the resources available to anyone who looked. The actual reward was deducted in a different, more strongly fortified room. It required GPR in conjunction with water testing and careful drilling to ultimately surpass the original island's architects. Ultimately, however, the treasure was not discovered by chance. It was discovered because research and technology provided the squad with a map to avoid the pitfalls. The discovery is astounding, yet what does it actually signify for our mutual past? The worldwide ramifications. They discovered it, then. A gold-filled vault, old manuscripts, and an enigmatic blade. However, the true gem isn't something it is possible to attach a price tag. The baseline represents the artifacts found in the sanctuary might undergo significant modification. What we believe to be true about the world past. This goes beyond a footnote. This might need us to completely rewrite chapters. Let's begin with the most shocking revelation: the Templar relationship with the Knights. For it was a French theory for years, the kind similar to what you see in movies. However, that meteoric iron-bearing base sword hard evidence is their symbol. That the strong order, known as the Templars, was disbanded. Early in the 1300s, according to legend, they fled with their enormous wealth and holy artifacts. Should they take it to Oak Island? It indicates that they possessed the knowledge and assets to traverse the Atlantic for more than a century prior to Columbus. This implies not only were pre-Columbian expeditions uncommon, Viking travels, yet structured. Trips with substantial funding from one of the most influential organizations in Europe. Furthermore, what about those Roman coins? It's a true brain teaser. It causes a hiccup in the whole chronology of the discovery. How did Romans manage to reach the New World? Alternatively, were these coins a component of a greater trove of Templar riches gathered over many centuries from all their Middle Eastern and European regions? In any case, it demonstrates that classical antiquity objects were existing for centuries in North America, prior to the ideas of contemporary historians feasible. You may not be aware of the importance, yet this is similar to discovering inside an Egyptian automobile a modern engine pyramid. It simply shouldn't exist. The scrolls come next. If they actually include secret maps, star charts, and texts in antiquated tongues. They might be an invaluable source of lost understanding. Were they defending scientific data that was regarded as heresy in Europe throughout the Middle Ages? Or maybe they have the secret to the renowned banking system of Templar and worldwide network. The reality that the room was named the sanctuary, as the name suggests, it was safeguarding something much more important, more significant than mere money. It was keeping secrets safe. This finding spreads widely, impacting not only American history, but European and Middle Eastern history as well. We have come upon what we believe to be possible spaces or offset chambers in the earth. Thus, we're beginning to gather some information for you all. It's connected to Mystery Christian's Destiny Military Command to Canada's coastlines, and implies a degree of worldwide navigation and confidentiality. That sounds more and more like contemporary spying than medieval past. However, wait to hear what regarding all of this. Skeptics are speaking. Already, skeptics are pointing fingers. Certain archaeologists use caution, reminding everyone that exceptional claims need exceptional evidence. They contend that unless the artifacts are independently examined and subjected to peer review, we shouldn't make snap judgments regarding Roman or Knights Templar coins. Following the island has been excavated for 200 years. Some of these things could have been dumped or planted by previous lookers. It's a legitimate query. The pressure on a television program to provide the eureka moment is huge, and detractors concerned that amusement could be beyond science. Next, you have the different theories. Perhaps it wasn't Templars. Perhaps pirates were involved after all, but far more advanced ones more than we ever thought. Or perhaps it was a secret cache concealed by the British or French forces during their colonial conflicts. That perhaps the plot is less romantic, but it would still be a significant discovery. Historical importance. At this point in the narrative, when it comes to historians, things become nasty. Governments, treasure seekers, and probably going to make a claim. Who is the true owner? This gem? The Laganese, the government of Canada, the offspring of the Templar Knights, assuming they are real. That battle will be fought in not muddy pits, but courtrooms. The past as we speak, books are being rewritten. However, if the Templars did really conceal this, does treasure imply their secret? Is the Order still watching? For more, like and subscribe. For more, like and subscribe.